We have, we'll try Magic again. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Wow. Oh, we hear you now.
Yeah. Okay, let me go show you my question. Is atheism against Christianity or just against all religions?
Okay, it's not against any religion, actually. There are actually atheist religions. Buddhism is often one good example of that. Taoism, pantheism of various forms, shaman beliefs, they're all religions that also happen to be atheist. Atheist does not mean that you reject the possibility of a God. I have to assist a number of people in this quite often. They often think that people will sometimes brand themselves as agnostics because they are unsure whether a God exists or not. That's all of us. An agnostic, to my understanding, is someone who actually does believe that there's a God, but believes that the nature of that God is beyond human comprehension. An atheist is somebody who has said that if there is a God, then our knowledge of it would be beyond human comprehension, but we don't actually believe there is one. The only thing that defines an atheist is that you are not convinced that there must be a God. If you're not convinced of this, if your worldview does not happen to include a God, and you have to define what that is, then you are atheist. Now, what he was saying before about anti-theists may be another realm. I mean, when you talk about how religions promote their specific agenda and their particular God and what he hates and who he hates and what he wants you to do to the people that he hates, that's where you get into his motivation for anti-theism. I think I'm speaking for you, and I probably shouldn't. But did that clarify? We're not against religion necessarily, although being a rationalist, which is a subset of atheists, because there's many different types, as I just illustrated, as a rationalist, an empirical rationalist like myself, I consider it dishonest to assert as fact what is not supported. And religions, of course, do that. They insist that you make positive assertions that aren't based on anything, that you state as fact what are mere speculations. We don't. We don't. Yeah. Go ahead.
I got something else to ask. Okay. Why is religion the cause of most of the problems in the world today? Like September 11 and so on. Can you blame religion for that?
Mm-hmm. Did you hear that question?
You're asking religions cause problems, and you referred to September 11th as an example? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's always been that way. I mean, you have something where you need the people to believe in order to establish power, in order to hold position in religion, in order to have sway over other people. You have to have them believe what it is that you're selling, and that's why you require faith. Now, to me, the only thing in the universe that really requires faith is a bad salesman, because it requires that you absolutely swallow whatever I'm telling you. You have to believe it completely. I have to condition you that you realize that doubt is somehow evil, that gullibility is praised, and that if you ever second guess anything that I'm trying to tell you, that's somehow bad. You have to be conditioned to think like that. And then when you're afraid of your own thoughts, wherever they may vary from what I'm telling you is permitted to believe, then I've succeeded in establishing a religion. And religions work on humans' emotions, and they work on fear. Prejudice and paranoia are the cornerstones of many religious beliefs.
To steal something that Dennis pointed out yesterday on nonprofits, happy birthday, buddy, by the way. It's not that atheism is selling another form of religion. We're not buying what the religions are selling. If anything, rational, scientific, skeptical, secular atheists are like the consumer watchdogs that are pointing out, hey, the stuff that they're trying to sell you, probably not true. Let's look at the evidence on this. Are their claims actually supported? And for my money, the answer has been so far no for almost every single one. Anything that was of significance to the religion itself. Religions can claim any number of true things. I mean, it's like when people point to the Bible and say, well, look, those places in the Bible existed. Well, yeah, New York existed, but that doesn't mean Spider-Man's real.
And atheism isn't even trying to promote atheism.
Yeah.
We're really not. I mean, what would the world be like if we were all atheists? I mean, would you know, hi, I'm an atheist. Well, so am I. I mean, big damn deal. I mean, we're talking about a position or a philosophy that would negate itself to the extent that anybody would say, hi, I don't believe in gods. Well, coincidentally, I also don't believe impossible nonsense for no good reason and still maintain and defend those beliefs against all evidence to the contrary.
Yeah, to the extent that we're promoting anything, we're promoting science, skepticism, reason, critical thinking, those types of things.
Yeah. One thing I would say is, if you say that if the world was everyone was atheist, then I believe the world will go straight to hell, as in no chaos everywhere. Because one thing
I'm not understanding you. Can you say that again?
Yeah. If the world was atheist and everyone is atheist, I believe there will be a lot of chaos. Because
you believe there'd be a lot of chaos?
Yeah, because one thing I believe is that if religion makes people fear, it restricts people. It makes people do things sensibly.
If that were the case, then why would all the statistics indicate the very opposite answer? I mean, have you ever done any comparisons? I mean, on any crime you like. I mean, if you look at the prison populations, I mean, there's been some reports shown with they have the statistics illustrated for all the different religious denominations and how they're represented in federal prison versus the populations that are seen out on the streets. I mean, atheists rather, in the prison population are substantially fewer than they are in the free world, whereas when you look at the Catholics and Protestants in general, you get roughly comparable numbers to what they are in the free world. They're the same percentages in the free population versus in prisons. But when you get into certain subgroups like atheists, and I think the one exception probably is Mormons, that are just about as low in the prison population as atheists are, everybody else doesn't seem to be at all encumbered by the fear of any God. I mean, find anybody that went to federal prison that doesn't have a cross tattooed on him or didn't before he went in. I mean, like I said in another video, I mean, I've met several people who were very good, wholesome people, and they happened to be Christian, and they were good, wholesome people before they were Christian, so that had no effect on them. But the population that you're talking about is not in any way restricted by their fear of God. I mean, you can talk to them and figure out what their rationale is behind the crimes. They believe there's a God. Somehow they don't believe that what they're doing is being, is something he's immediately looking at. I don't know what exceptions they draw for him, but they're not afraid for what they're doing. They don't think that this God is going to visit anything against them. And the atheists aren't going out and doing the things that you would expect atheists to do. If the reason that we're atheists is because we want to go out and sin, well, then why aren't we?
Well, I would say that by some people's definitions of sin, we are and enjoying it. But the thing that I wanted to get to is that the claim that religion benefits society is, in my opinion, what Dan Dennett refers to as a deepity, which means to the extent that it's true, it's trivial, and to the extent that it's profound, it is false. So when you say religion benefits society, okay, yeah, that's the portion of that that's true is entirely trivial. It provides a sense of community. It provides all of those things which are true don't require religion. They are things that humans have imbued religion with because this is human nature. The profound aspect of that statement that you're trying to make is demonstrably false. The claim that without religion the world would sink into chaos and that there would be no moral standards and people would just rape and pillage. It's absurd.
If you're interested in the specific statistics, the video that I showed all these in was called Answering Cess Streets, and it's in one of my upload sections. I pulled a number of statistics out of mainstream media. It's all easily verifiable. You can look up any of these statistics yourself. All of them invariably show the direct opposite correlation. It is a negative correlation, what you're talking about. Religion does not maintain social order, and in every example that I can think of, does the very reverse.
Okay. So what do atheists follow as morals? What guidelines do they follow to live? Like Christians who believe you shouldn't tell a lie, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. What do atheists believe? How do you
go about how do atheists go about forming a moral code without some dogmatic ancient book to tell us what to do?
Well, it's worse than that. You're telling me that the only reason that people that should be nice to each other is because they're afraid of some inescapable sky daddy with an inevitable punishment. Is that what you're saying? That if we don't fear this indomitable beast coming after us, that we've no reason to be nice to each other. Is that the question?
That's not really exactly what I'm saying.
Okay.
I understand what you're saying. But,
It's really, I've talked about this before, and actually, if you'll bear with me for a moment, I'm going to do a slight bit of self-promotion. March 24th, I'll be at Washington State University Pullman, and the subject of the talk will be the superiority of secular morality. And I'll be going through this in great detail. I'm sure that somebody's going to videotape it. Tape. I dated myself. I'm sure that it will be recorded and probably available for viewing. But the thing is, I think people get too hung up on this question of morals, and it's much, much simpler than anybody would suspect. The fact that we're all similar creatures with similar goals, similar values, in the simplistic sense of life is generally preferable to death and health is generally preferable to sickness, that type of thing. It's not difficult at all.
I can give you
in a cooperative society to come up with which actions are beneficial to myself and the group and which are harmful. I mean, it's obvious. It doesn't even take a great deal of thought for most of them.
What I typically see occurring in people that were once devout believers is when they come to the point where they realize that at some point they had been lied to by people who knew, in fact, that they were lying, and they begin to re-examine their religious beliefs, and they begin to decide that they're all bogus. It's not what a believer would generally suspect. It's not that they want to rebel. It certainly isn't that they hate God, because, I mean, how can you hate something that you don't believe exists? But in each of these people, in every case of anyone that I've actually spoken to, in every case that I know of directly, when someone comes to the reality of viewing the world without a deity behind it, where natural things happen for natural reasons and things make sense, then their appreciation for science and nature and understanding and even truth is enhanced. I cannot think of one person who has eventually rejected or denied or shrugged off religious beliefs who does not feel at great benefit from that. And they all think that, look at how much of my life I've wasted wandering around in the dark.
okay. I have more personal questions, Max. Okay. I'm a 17-year-old college student, and I don't really know what to believe in.
That's a good position to stay on.
Yeah.
I'd say it's a good starting point, for sure. You're better off than if you believed something that you had no good reason to. Go out, explore, think about it, investigate different things. I'm convinced, as are most of the people that I associate with and you'll find on the show, that there is a tool set that allows us to figure out which claims are true and which claims are not true.
Now, one of the things is if you're concerned about whether or not your belief in anything in the Bible is true, read it. I encourage you. Read the entire thing. And if that alone doesn't do it for you, then start looking at other religious documents. Seriously and sincerely, read the Quran, read the Bhagavad Gita, read the Avestas of Zarathustra. Compare various religions. And then maybe your horizons will expand a bit. It did for me.
But on the question of morals, I definitely, if I were you, I'd stop by perhaps the Iron Chariots Wiki or even Wikipedia, or do a search for the Euthyphro dilemma, which will kind of address what you were talking about before. In simplest terms, it asks the question, is something moral because a God commands it, or does a God command it because it's moral? And the idea that you need an externally enforced, externally dictated moral code to tell you what's right and wrong is one that I find not only absurd but offensive.
In your first statement about if it was this guy that said that if everybody was atheist, there would be chaos. Mm-hmm. It was his caller. Yes. Okay. I mean, I envision if everybody was atheist, I mean, it'd be kind of like a Star Trek sort of a universe wherein your believers would be a very small sect of people, and they would say, hi, I believe things that are absolutely impossible. I believe them for no reason whatsoever, and I absolutely will not change my mind no matter what reason you give me. This, I think, is a more realistic comparison. The laws apply whether you believe or not. You're going to be punished if you commit crimes, whether you believe or not. And then it just becomes that you don't have the fan base of other supporters to say, oh, we also believe ridiculous and indefensible nonsense. It becomes more obviously indefensible when you're out there alone.